On slide 14, we see pictures of a group that is known as Amish. The two men in the very center are dressed in typical Amish dress with the Amish beards and appear to be very strong and very believable persons. In the upper left is the conveyance in which these people would travel, the horse and buggy. They would not be comfortable in a modern automobile. That would be too modern. Their culture says better to use the old established ways, which is a horse and buggy. However, they live in another society, and that is a society that has certain rules and regulations. So we note on the horse and buggy a license plate, which they are required to have by the government of the area, the danger sign, which is something that is required, and also the reflectors that allow their vehicle to be seen at night. In the lower column is a modern telephone. Now, the Amish probably would not want the telephone in their home. That would be a modern convenience that would be rejected. However, I'll guarantee you they'll drive their horse and buggy to this public telephone and use it to contract business that would have required them to drive all the way to town otherwise. They wouldn't want the modern convenience in their home, but they will go to it and use it. The next slide shows another very important aspect of culture, and that is the determination of what is right and wrong. In our culture in America, there's no disrespect nor insult intended in accepting something with your left hand or giving something with your left hand, but in many cultures, this would be a very serious breach of cultural values and etiquette, and you would only read something with your right hand and never with your left. Also, you might frown upon a marriage between cousins, but in some cultures, the culture would say this would be the very best possibility for a marriage partner for you. In slide 16, we deal with the matter of dress. The guy in the upper left-hand corner is dressed very nicely. We would accept that. We would probably not want to go to the trouble of the dress of the Japanese ladies on the right side, but it's very beautiful dress and very feminine looking. In the lower left is the typical dress of an Indonesian woman, and I tell you, it's very feminine, it's very beautiful, it's very nice, and okay, but it'd be a little bit excessive to wear in America. Most American men would not want to dress like the Arabic men over in the right corner, but in a desert conditions, this is dress that is very, very fitting for the desert. Now, the women in the top center are wearing very faded jeans. When I was young, we would have been embarrassed to have worn faded jeans. That would have made us look poor. Now it's accepted. While we accept the dress of most cultures and say it's their way of dressing, that's all right. The two guys in the center bottom row are wearing clothing that most of us don't really think is suitable, acceptable. I can't believe it's comfortable. So we might not culturally accept that dress. The ladies in the next picture are all dressed okay. Nobody would cast a report. Some might think one of them's skirt is too short, but don't hear much fuss about that today. Come down to slide 18. When I was in high school, women did not wear shorts. Now, this lady's dressed in shorts and looks very nice, but that would not have been thought so when I was in high school and early college. The two ladies, the one in the center and the one on the left, wearing the jeans with holes in them. I get a lot of fun out of this. Again, when I was high school and college, we would never have worn jeans with holes in them, but now this is stylish, and some of you pay extra money to get them. Only in recent years have we had ear jewelry as it is. You see the one in the upper right. Today, it does not mean that the person is uncultured or in opposition to culture or is rejecting culture. It's just a different way of wearing jewelry. The man in the lower right is wearing ear jewelry. In my high school, college days, no man would have done this. It's just something we would not have done, but today it's quite openly done and without any bad meaning. The two guys in the center bottom are wearing their clothes with their baseball caps backward and the other clothing. The gesture the one is making could or could not have certain bad meanings or different meanings, but it's there. Now, slide 19 is talking about food. Many people from India who follow a Hindu religion would not eat the cow meat. Many people in other cultures, including Indonesian or some parts of Indonesia, would not only eat the puppy meat, but would think it would be the very best, the highest of food, the most desirable. The American Indians in the West thought fish was a disgusting matter and would never have thought about eating it. Many cultures, including ours, do not partake of horse meat. Muslims are prohibited directly from eating mules. Don't know why for sure. Both Muslims and Jewish people are prohibited from eating pork, and it may have a certain health matter involved there. I don't know. I would always have thought that Muslims might be prohibited from eating camel, since the camel is so important to their transportation and their other cultural factors. I am told that they are not prohibited from eating camel, they just don't do it very often. Most cultures will eat chicken, and we find it to be almost universal food, but some people don't. The bowl of rice and the beefsteak. There are some people, if you gave them the beefsteak to eat and no rice, would feel like they had not eaten. They would not often eat that large a piece of meat, just one person. In fact, a whole family would very seldom have that large a piece of meat. But the rice would be the more important part of the food, of the meal, and not the steak. Some people will drink the beer and some will not. Some Chinese cultures reject all forms of food from dairy products, and so the milk and the ice cream even would be rejected. Slide 20 brings up the matter of housing. The picture at the upper left and the lower right are pictures of the houses in interior Kalimantan. You call it Borneo. The people are sometimes called Dayak, but that really is just the word for interior. But this group of people live in what's called a longhouse. A longhouse is one room wide, but it may go, as you see, for a long, long ways through the forest. When a woman marries, her husband comes to live at her mother's home. They are given one room to live in. If the man displeases either the wife or the mother, her mother, his stuff will just be set outside the room, and that means to him go home. If the roof begins to leak, the man who lives there will never fix it. The boys of the mother, who's in the chief female in this home, in this house, will come back and fix that. The man who lives here will go home and fix the roof of his mother's house. It's a special way of living in a matrilineal group in interior Borneo. The center top house is among the Minangkabau people in Sumatra. This group of people have a special relationship with the carabao, the water buffalo, and their roofs are made to look like the horns of the water buffalo. On the right, you see the hut that would be used in Africa and considered a very good home in certain parts of Africa. The house up on stilts is that way because of proximity to the ocean and the possibility of flooding. The multi-story, multi-apartment housing that we see on the right is something that is in vogue in our more developed houses. Ancient Inuits or Eskimos lived like a house in the center, the ice house, because it was very good way to live where they lived. Over on the left, we have the favela in Latin America, the place where the very poor people live, crunched together in all sorts of problems because of that. In the center, another African type house. Housing is culturally made. Now, there's nothing more culture than hand gestures. If you will study closely number 22, you'll see that where a thumb up in Indonesia and America means good, in some places it means great, but in other places it's a rather unthoughtful gesture. It means about the same thing as making a very bad gesture to people. Right in the middle, the thumb up between the fingers in Brazil means good luck. But in many other places, well, in Indonesia, for example, that is the most vulgar symbol you can give. So you can look at these different gestures and see that in different cultures, the gestures mean totally different things. The simple phrase, I want to eat now, can be expressed in many different languages, and there are at least three of these. Aku ingin makan sekarang, kulo bade nedo saik meniko, and aku pengen mangan saiki, are three ways of saying I want to eat now in Javanese, but one is what a child would say or what you would say to a child. One is what you would say about yourself, and another is what you would say to a person more important than you. So languages can be quite different, as we see. This tells us that culture is different in different places, and the same act, the same words, the same gestures, the same dress, the same type of living arrangement can have totally different meanings in different cultures.